SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
State Treasurer David McRae is returning record amounts of money to Mississippians, whether it's through the College and Career Savings Program or the hundreds of millions in unclaimed money awaiting your claim. Treasurer David McRae says get your applications and claims in today. Treasury.ms.gov.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Middle of the week. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Thank you for starting your day with us. A good start to the day. Nice out this morning. It's not super humid. We don't have the nip in the air that we had earlier. What was it, Monday morning? Walked out Monday morning. Yeah. It was just like, ooh. I just want to sit here for a while. Don't have that this morning. It's okay. It'll be here. Lance, good morning.
Good morning, man. Welcome back to the home studio.
Yeah,
a fun day
back.
yesterday, though.
Yesterday was fun. It was. It really was cool to be at the Mississippi Women's Summit, hosted by the Attorney General Lynn Fitch, and an incredible turnout. Heard some from some folks that were there that said the speakers throughout the day were outstanding. So congratulations on all that were there, and thanks for having us. I looked a little bit different than most everybody that was there, Lance.
Yeah, noticeably.
Houston and I stood out like a sore thumb.
Well, and there were some good colors, too. You know, the AG always brings out the wardrobe, so
yeah.
I always have to comment on her taste. She does. She knows what she's doing, so there's no way you would have been able to compete with that, no matter what you would have brought with you.
I mean, if I had like a pastel.
Yeah, even if you'd had one of your, more ornate jackets and colorful tie or something like that. I
didn't think about that. Yeah. I probably should have done that yesterday. Oh, well. Yeah. But you say it wouldn't have mattered.
It wouldn't have mattered, no.
Okay, that's good.
You did great, so.
It is going to be nice today. Hernando, some clouds this morning, giving way to mainly sunny skies this afternoon, high of 92, winds light and variable. Callen City, you got sunny skies today with a high near 90. Waynesboro, mainly sunny, 91, winds out of the east at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Woodville, down close to Centerville, down in southwest Mississippi, abundant sunshine, 89 degrees. Light and variable winds today for our friends in Woodville. Lance, we have a yin and a yang here. The yin is the birthdays aren't very good today. There are a couple of really good
big
ones.
ones in there, though.
Couple of really good ones, but in terms of quantity, not a lot. But the things that have happened on this day in history are off the charts, and I've got one that I think is going to make you chuckle.
All right.
So let's roll. Peyton Randolph was born in 1721. If you don't know who Peyton Randolph is, you can be excused. He's not one of the more common founding fathers. He was the president of the Continental Congress, though, born in Williamsburg, Virginia, 1721. How about this cat? One of the coolest dudes to ever walk the face of the earth. 1929, legendary American golfer Arnold Palmer was born. 7 majors, including 4 times at the Masters. Born in Latrobe, Pennsylvania.
Dude could play it.
I
mean, when you're that good, you have a drink named after you,
And an army, your own army.
That's right.
Arnold's Army, it was a thing. 1934, Roger Maris was born, the American baseball player who broke Babe Ruth's single-season home run record in 1961.
Without steroids.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think he was.
I don't think so. Seemed to be an all-around good guy.
You're not talking about this guy when you say that, but he does seem to be staying around. Bill O'Reilly, born in 1949, American journalist and television host. Does he seem to be an all-around good guy?
He was a basketball player at one time, right? When he
was he?
I thought he was NBA guy, and then he went into.
Bill O'Reilly was an NBA guy?
I thought he was. Let me make sure on that. I might be wrong, but let me see.
That clip of when he was hosting Inside Edition or something, and like somebody didn't put the cue card right, and he just
he
goes
blows
off.
up, dude.
Whatever. Who's got time for that?
He's a blowhard, definitely. Hey, how many presidents of the Continental Congress were there?
I don't know.
14.
Okay.
Yeah. Just something that it went on for a while. People don't realize. Yeah, took a bit. No, he wasn't. He didn't have any basketball. That was something I'd read somewhere. But no, he is a blowhard man. I don't know. I've never been a huge O'Reilly fan. Sometimes it's kind of like the bald-headed guy that was the Kramer guy with investments. It's just too much. It's just too much for me.
Yeah.
It's just too much hollering and screaming and carrying on, and
sure,
not big on that.
Joe Perry, American rock guitarist with Aerosmith, born on this day in 1950. Jack Ma is 60 today. 1964, the Chinese entrepreneur and founder of Alibaba Group, born in Hangzhou, China. All right, things that happened on this day in history. Oh, this is so good. 1608. John Smith is elected president of the Jamestown Colony Council. In 1813, you had the Battle of Lake Erie. The United States Navy, led by Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry, defeated the British in the War of 1812. Man, are you thinking of Bill Laimbeer?
No, there was somebody else, but no, I guess the British just wanted a little bit more, after getting. No,
I'm going back to the Bill O'Reilly thing. Were you thinking about Bill Laimbeer? Okay.
No, it's not Laimbeer. It was somebody else that I've got on
Can
my
you
mind.
imagine Bill O'Reilly with one of those plastic face masks
No,
on?
that would be awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
1846, Elias Howe patented the sewing machine. By the way, going back, if you could just pick any job in the Navy, is Commodore the rank that you would want?
Yeah, of course. I
know Admiral's kind of the top of the food chain, but if they call you Commodore.
Yeah, you're living good with Commodore in front.
1939, Canada declared war on Germany, formally entering World War II. But none of that compares to this. In 1945, Mike, the headless chicken, was decapitated in Fruita, Colorado, but survived for another 18 months before choking to death. There was a poem written about this by Arba Glean. I listened and heard the farmer say, "We'll have this fowl for lunch today." Thought there won't be nothing doing. I just can't see myself a-stewing. But he took the axe and chopped off my head, then threw me down and left me for dead. There I lay on the ground for a moment I lay. Then I arose and walked away. Said Farmer Lloyd to his kindly wife, "That's the strangest thing I've seen in my life." Said the kindly wife to her farmer man, "I can't put him in the frying pan. A fowl that hates so much to die, there must be some good reason why. And since he wants so much to live, every living chance to him we'll give. Through my esophagus they feed me corn, they give me drink and keep me warm. I'm well and happy as can be. I stand around for folks to see. Although I haven't got a head, I'm better off than if I'm dead." Mike, the headless chicken, 1945. What? You say? "Oh, Richard, that can't be real," you say. Well, that's funny because I said the same thing. And so I did a bit more digging so you wouldn't have to. Yes, Mike the headless chicken was real. He was a rooster who survived for 18 months after his head was cut off in 1945 because the axe missed his jugular vein and most of his brainstem, leaving enough intact to sustain basic life functions like breathing and heart rate. His owners, the Olsons, fed him with an eyedropper and toured him as a sideshow attraction named Miracle Mike. Before in 1947 he died from choking. His hometown of Farita, Colorado now holds an annual festival in his honor.
That is definitely one of the crazier stories I've ever heard. And it's real, so. Life is strange. Goodness gracious. Can you imagine seeing the chicken with barely any head just running around out there having a big time? Then you call him over and start feeding corn down his throat. I don't know if I'd be happy to see him alive or ask him to put him out of his misery.
It's a real thing. We're back with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
This way, things I couldn't do before, now I know I can, and I'm leaving here a better man. Yes, I'm leaving here a better man.
From the Venable Glass.
This is Mornings with Richard Cross.
Let's do it.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Dark and dusty, painted on the sky, misty taste of moonshine, teardrop in my eye, country road, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia, Mountain Mama.
You're talking about a song that's made a resurgence.
Is it good? And
Country Roads is everywhere.
I love me some John Denver, though.
Yeah, no doubt.
Snazzy dresser, too, back in the day.
Mark in Pascagoula tells me that Commodore is a one-star admiral or a rear
It's
admiral.
behind a rear admiral. Yeah.
Lower F.
And you also have the Commodore 64, which was the best-selling home computer of all time. So
Yeah, IBM kind of pushed it to the side, but it made a run for a little while. Mark, I think I wanted Commodore to be a higher rank. I mean, I dove off into the Navy officer ranks, kind of looking there.
yeah,
So
it's one
you
behind
got Ensign 01, Lieutenant, Junior Grade, Lieutenant 03, Lieutenant Commander, Commander, Captain, and then Rear Admiral lower half. That's a one-star admiral. Rear Admiral upper half, 2-star. Vice Admiral is a 3-star. Admiral in the Navy is a 4-star, comparable to a 4-star general in the Army. And then, did you know this? That there was a 5-star. The Fleet Admiral, a wartime designation that has not been assigned since World War II, when 5 stars were awarded to William Leahy, Ernest King, Chester Nimitz, and William Halsey. Is Nimitz the only one that's got a boat named after him?
I don't know. I mean, I know of Halsey and Nimitz pretty well, but
Yeah.
the other two, yeah. Not sure. I bet there's boats named after him. We just don't know which.
Probably.
Yeah. Probably one of those
somewhere.
destroyers or something like that.
But, I mean, you got the USS Nimitz. 1960, Ethiopia, Ghana, Guinea, Nigeria, and Morocco joined the newly formed Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. You perhaps know that as OPEC.
Just to answer your question, though, yeah, the Halsey is a DDG 97. I believe it is a currently active in service. So there's one. It's in San Diego, and it's a Leahy class cruiser. So Leahy, the class of cruisers, was named after him.
Okay.
Yeah, so I figured. I thought
like
everybody. Yeah, thought everybody had something on them.
I would rather be a Commodore.
Me too.
I've always wanted to meet Lionel Richie. That's on the C Spire text line. Baby Bakila of Ethiopia ran a world record 2:15:16.2 barefoot to win the men's marathon at the Rome Olympics in 1960, Africa's first Olympic gold medal.
Get that guy some shoes, man. He'd take off.
Might slow him down. 1960, Mickey Mantle hit a 643-foot home run over the right field roof in Detroit.
Yeah, that place was huge, too, but the old Detroit Stadium.
1963, Stan Musial hits a home run in his first at-bat as a grandfather. First in Major League Baseball history to do so. Go ahead, Stan the man. 1977, the last person was executed by guillotine in France.
In 77?
At least by the government.
Yeah. That seems pretty late for the guillotine, but...
1984, the first episode of the daily syndicated TV game show. Do you know which one? Hosted by Alex Trebek. This is Jeopardy! 1989, 5 days after... This is wild. 5 days after hitting a home run for the New York Yankees in a 12-2 win over the Mariners, Deion Sanders returns a punt 68 yards for a touchdown. His first NFL punt return touchdown.
Dude could play, man.
Big league home run 5 days later. Less than a week later, full pads house call. On this day in 1991, rock band Nirvana released their single "Smells Like Teen Spirit." Boy, that album, man.
Whoo! Revolutionary.
Dubbed the anthem of Generation X by some. Man.
It's when you could wear like just...
Dave Grohl, Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, Kurt Cobain would just wear like a green long-sleeve T-shirt with like yellow stripes and, Grunge.
The Senate Judiciary Committee began hearings on Clarence Thomas's nomination to the United States Supreme Court on this day in 1991. I remember that.
I do too. That
pretty
was,
vividly.
Yeah, pretty dramatic.
34 years ago. Anita Hill. She was the woman in question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the first government hearings on television that I remember, and I didn't know all the details, and probably haven't studied them enough now, were the Oliver North Iran Contra trials.
Oh yeah.
You'll love this one, Lance. I told you there were a bunch of these today. We'll get to some news in a second. Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical Cats in the year 2000 closed at the Winter Garden Theater in New York City. Now, if you're not intrigued yet, okay. But how about this run they had, Sir Lance? 7,485 performances.
Yeah, that's
some staying power.
It's kind of hard to comprehend, a play going that long.
Yeah. 7 Tony Awards, 3 Drama Desk Awards, and a Grammy.
Cleaned up there.
Hey, I don't remember this story. 2001, 2010, September 10th, 2001, Charles Ingram in the UK edition, cheating on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Yeah, that was, the lady ran that show, right? The blonde-headed lady that on the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and it was, I'm trying to remember, I remember that story vaguely, that the cheater, he ended up getting caught. Yeah, that was a pretty big deal, though. You always wonder, how do you cheat on a...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I never really understood that. Let's see. I'll find it. That's for sure.
Yeah, you can work on that.
Get that.
Let's see here. C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Nimitz is a class of ships, not a specific ship, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, here it is. Yes,
there is the Nimitz class, but hold on. Isn't there also a USS Nimitz? Did I make that up?
Let's see. USS Nimitz.
Yeah.
USS Nimitz. You can actually get the location of it. Planning to scrap it next year, it says.
The
It is
USS Nimitz
it
is an
aircraft
aircraft carrier of the Navy
Central
and,
Command.
and the lead ship of her class.
Mm-hmm.
So it's both.
Says 16 hours ago, the U.S. Navy is planning to scrap the USS Nimitz next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then
David, don't you like it? We all get to be right. You were right.
Right.
I was right. We were all right.
the wife was the one. That's who it was. I remember now that I see this guy's face on the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Yeah, it was he and his wife were doing it, and another contestant were all kind of in it together, and they were signaling answers during the multiple choice questions, and that was how he ended up getting caught and how they were pulling it off.
Okay. Ingalls built the DDG-97 USS Halsey, an Aegis-guided missile destroyer, second ship named after William Halsey. That's from John and Hurley. Dave, answers were answered as a question. What is Jeopardy?
What is Jeopardy?
That is correct, David. Admiral Halsey notified me I had to have a bath or I couldn't get to see Paul McCartney. Thank you. Yes, the Thomas hearings were broadcast, displacing college football. Sports people all over the country were irate, me being one of them. That's Rich in Biloxi. Rich, I do not remember that. I remember it being on during the daytime, like days of the week. But I'm going to trust you on it. Watergate hearings from Marshall and Terry were set to watch. Big-name lawyers for the political sides like Fred Thompson and the Clintons. Fred Thompson went on to be a great actor.
Fred D. Love him. Good writer, too. Read several of his books about Watergate and his experience in it when I was back in the college era. But yeah, Fred D. And that was before he became a very famous actor. He was just starting.
He's just a stud lawyer then?
Yeah, he was a lawyer. He'd done very well. But yeah, that kind of, when you get on the Watergate committee hearings, that kind of helps you out a little bit in life.
Yeah. Hey, and finally, 1 year ago today, in some ways it feels like yesterday, and in some ways it feels like it might have been 100 years ago.
Or that it was just a dream.
The second U.S. presidential debate between new candidate Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, hosted by ABC in Philadelphia, with most commentators giving Harris the win. News and sports headlines coming up next. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for spending part of your day with us.
State. Since you're up early, you get the news first. Back to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi and the SuperTalk app.
Amarillo by morning, up from San Antone. Everything that I got is just what I've got on. When that sun is high in that Texas sky, I'll be bucking at the county fair. Amarillo by morning, Amarillo, I'll be there.
C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Give your business the edge. Gigabit fiber from internet from C-Spire. Blazing fast speeds to power your business at the speed of business. Check them out online, cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. The North Mississippi Catfish Club has a tournament on Grenada this Saturday. We're on Facebook at North MS Catfish Club. I'd appreciate a shout-out. It's a sport, too. Consider yourself shouted out.
Yeah, a buddy of mine caught a
Thanks for the heads up.
a 50, a 30, and some 20s about a week and a half ago, and it's a sport, brother. Let me tell you, something that big, yeah, that's some effort.
Fred Thompson was selected to represent the Republicans by Senator Howard Baker. That's from Marshall and Terry. I guess we're talking about the Watergate hearings. Enjoying a country music Wednesday, Lance. Thank you for that.
You are welcome.
Good morning. MRC was nailing some impressions on Monday morning. I'd love to hear an impression of Caleb Sailors. That's from James in the Delta.
Yeah, you can tune in on Friday night at 10 o'clock, and we will have...
I'm Caleb Sailors, Super Talk, Mississippi.
And you're never going to meet a better guy either.
Oh,
man,
he's great.
He is. I mean, if you hear it in his voice, he is that guy. I mean, he is as good of a good-hearted Christian, and, man, he is a worker. That dude is everywhere.
Didn't Fred Thompson run for president? Yeah, he had a
kind of
run or two. The old primaries. Never made it farther than that. A new administration is in place in Jackson, city of Jackson. We know about that. Work to repair streets across the capital is kind of getting started. Partnership between the city and the county has been agreed on in the hopes of expediting the process. Mayor John Horn announced a couple of days ago, yesterday actually, that he and the Hinds County Board of Supervisors President Robert Graham have signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, not a contract, but on the way to a contract, marking a collaboration between the city of Jackson and Hinds County to address street resurfacing and pothole repairs through a new joint initiative. Comes as both boards voted in favor of the MOU. Under the partnership, Hinds County will provide personnel and equipment, while the city of Jackson will fund the repairs inside the city limits. As previously reported by the Clarion Ledger, the city has a multi-million-dollar budget for street repairs, but has had issues hiring crews to carry out the work. Hinds County, on the other hand, has the crews, but not as much money, and so they are coming together and saying, let's get together, yeah. So good stuff. Work begins immediately. This makes so much sense. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. President. Glad you guys are working together. Outstanding. I didn't know that was the issue, Lance. I didn't know the issue was that Jackson had the money to do it, but not the people to do it, and Hinds County had the people to do it, but not the money.
Yeah, that's a head scratcher.
Because if it's been like that way for a long time, it feels like this is a solution that perhaps somewhere in the last, 2 decades could have been previously stumbled upon.
I agree.
But John Horn and Robert Graham, salute, friends. Salute. Now do it. A Gulfport man was arrested Monday after police said he carjacked and kidnapped a car dealership employee at gunpoint during a test drive. The Gulfport Police Department issued a release Tuesday morning announcing that 33-year-old Reginald Donovan Johnson was charged with robbery, armed robbery, carjacking, and kidnapping. 10:44 in the morning, Dido Road. According to witnesses, Johnson posed as a potential customer, asked for a test drive, then pulled out a gun during the ride. Police said he forced the employee to drive to another location, stole the cell phone at gunpoint of the employee, and pushed the victim out before fleeing in the vehicle. You need a phone that bad? Detectives later identified Johnson as the suspect and found the stolen vehicle. He didn't even keep the car.
He just stole the car to get the phone.
This is all for a phone? I mean, what is the market for a used cell phone? This still has somebody else's number and, tracking info and data in it.
He needed to get in touch with somebody badly, I guess.
This cat is stupid as a sack of hammers. Johnson was booked at the Harrison County Adult Detention Center with his bond being set at $1.5 million. I mean, if you told me that this employee was known for having 10 grand in his pocket. Nope. Well, at least he took the car because it was a great car. No. What'd he take? Cell phone. Trombone Shorty is being honored by the Grammy Museum, Mississippi. Announced yesterday that he is this year's recipient of the Crossroads of America Music Award, which goes out annually to an artist who has made significant musical contributions inspired by the region. Trombone Shorty, his real name, Troy Andrews, 4-time Grammy nominee, notched his first Gilded Gramophone in 2021 with We Are being named Album of the Year. New Orleans native, one of the Crescent City's most celebrated cultural ambassadors, blending genres like jazz, rock, pop, and hip-hop to make for a contemporary sound now synonymous with his hometown. Trombone Shorty has released 6 studio albums since 2010, his latest dropping last month on the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, making landfall. Teamed up with fellow Grammy nominees New Breed Brass Band for an album called Second Line Sunday. Outstanding.
There's no better place to have a breakfast, with a little coffee, maybe even a mimosa or a Bloody Mary than New Orleans, and hearing the jazz bands and the trombones and trumpets. And, oh, man,
That's
it's
right.
just, man, it brings it's goosebump material for me. Trombone Shorty is amazing, too. I'm a big Dirty Dozen brass band fan, but he gets it done.
A new Mississippi Blues Trail marker has been unveiled at the B.B. King Museum and Delta Interpretive Center in Indianola. Distinguished recognition by Visit Mississippi celebrates the museum's enduring commitment to preserving and promoting the life, legacy, and music of the late American blues legend B.B. King, who played an integral role in Mississippi being branded the birthplace of America's music. He was born in Berkeley in 1925, but he claimed Indianola. 6 decades in his musical journey, deeply rooted in Indianola, where he regularly returned to perform, visit friends, and participate in annual homecoming events. Since its opening in 2008, the museum has served as a cultural institution, drawing visitors from around the world. During his lifetime, B.B. King recorded more than 50 albums and won 15 Grammy Awards, including the Recording Academy's Lifetime Achievement Award. That was in 1987. In 1986, he earned a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. In 2003, Rolling Stone magazine ranked B.B. King number 3, behind only Jimi Hendrix and Duane Allman on the list of 100 greatest guitarists of all time.
I love the way he would sing and then play, and sing and play. He'd let his guitar talk for him, and then he'd let his voice sing. And it's hard to describe there was always anticipation with his music. You were waiting, and I just absolutely love B.B. King. Love his brother Albert, too. But B.B., what an accomplished man. I mean, goodness.
Your morning sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Find them online at pearlriverresort.com. Pearl River Resort, the home of the Dancing Rabbit Golf Club, 2 18-hole championship courses, the Oaks and the Azaleas. Book your tee time online at dancingrabbitgolf.com. Dancing Rabbit, part of Pearl River Resort. Kewan Lacey, the SEC's leading rusher through the first 2 games of the 2025 season, earned an award this week. Doak Walker, National Player of the Week, after an impressive outing against Kentucky. 138 yards and a touchdown on 28 carries in Ole Miss's 7-point win. He has amassed, through 2 games, 246 yards and 4 scores. The weekly honor that Lacey received leads up to the nation's top running back being recognized as the best in his position at the end of the year. The award is named after the legendary Doak Walker, a 3-time All-American at SMU. Sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort, your home for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. PearlRiverResort.com.
Everybody's gone country. Yeah, we've gone country. The whole world's gone country. We gone.
From the Venable Glass.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi and the SuperTalk app.
Yo, welcome back. Good morning. Hope your coffee tastes as good as mine did this morning. It's one of those mornings where you took that first sip and you're like, everything's going to be all right.
I was rushing to get it made this morning. Usually I'm not in that much of a hurry, but I was like, man, I need coffee today.
Did you get up late?
No. I mean, great night's sleep. I was just hungry for some coffee, I guess. Sometimes
I got
craving.
a great night's sleep. I was so tired last night. It was just what I was started kind of on the drive home from Jackson yesterday. I was like, man, I need a nap. And I never got time for a nap. Never got, whatever. I was able to kind of get ahead on my work. I went to sleep at 10 o'clock last night.
That pretty early for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
People, it's probably the most common question that I get now. With, the transition into this show, it's good grief for coming up on a year. Oh, yeah, you go to bed early and get up early. No.
Not really.
Sleep schedule didn't really change on the front end, only on the back end.
Yeah.
Getting up earlier, but haven't really changed bedtime very much.
It's funny. You'll get, I'm sure with 3 kids and a wife and, a lot going on, it's much more difficult to sneak in that hour, here and there. But it makes all the difference in the world for me. After about the first year, it's like, man, I'm going to have to start finding like, an hour here and there. I mean, even if it's
power nap.
Yeah, even if it's Sunday afternoon or something, just adding up the hours through the week, it seemed to help me a great deal. And yeah, I normally wake up pretty chipper. I'm not a morning person, but this job has definitely helped me become much more that way.
Yeah, no choice. I mean, you got to be ready to roll at 6:06. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like about every 2 or 3 weeks, there's one day where it's like, I have to go to bed. Like I have to get 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep tonight. But yeah, I mean, during the school year with 3 that have got bedtime and everything else, homework, activities. I mean, anything before 9 o'clock's like no shot. 10 is occasionally doable, and that's where I got last night. And, it was good. All right, time for your Mississippi Lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, mslottery.com. Lotto America is up to $2.7 million. The estimated cash value, $1.23 million. A paltry $33 million in the jackpot for the Powerball, although I'd take it, as I'm sure you would as well. Estimated cash value, $15.2 million. Mega Millions, no winner last night, so the Friday drawing up to $381 million with an estimated cash value of $175 million. 12 Mississippi Lottery scratch-off games are saying goodbye, but not before giving players another shot to win nearly $1 million in second chance prizes. See which tickets are included at mslottery.com/second-chance. Last day to grab these tickets is Friday, October 10th. Winners have until January 8th to cash them in. And don't toss those non-winners away. You can enter them in the big second chance drawing that happens on January 13th. Check out Mississippi Lottery's second chance webpage for all the details. Very good. Hey, this morning, in the 7 o'clock hour, and I fully expect the text line, the C Spire text line, to be on fire. Thomas, by the way, says that's a boomer sleep schedule.
Yeah, I like the next one, though. Yeah.
Suck it up. Yeah. Trump's almost 80. He never sleeps.
You were right about that.
For that, I am in awe of him. Grant Callen is going to join us. We're going to talk school choice in Mississippi, education freedom. He's founder and CEO of Empower Mississippi. Look forward to that conversation. Grant's a really sharp guy. And I've read a lot of the stuff that he's written and that he's put on X, and we're just going to talk through some of this, some of the questions that I've got, some of the things that are on his mind. Looking forward to that conversation. It'll be kind of an extended conversation in the 7 o'clock hour. And then the 8 o'clock hour, Scott Waller will come by. He's president and CEO of the Mississippi Economic Council. You know Scott. Also, Gene Massey, executive director of Ascent to 55%. That's the MEC-MS Propel Education Forum. That's coming up in October. and it's at the Jackson Convention Complex. We'll talk more about that in the 8 o'clock hour. Gary and Carrollton, any idea what's wrong with the Greenwood station? Only peripherally. I'm not smart enough to understand the engineering and technical piece of it, but it's broken, and Houston is working on fixing it. I think we got a temporary fix, and there's some new parts on the way. Okay. Very good. Very good. That's the best answer I can give you. It's broken right now.
That's what I've been trying to give out. Yeah,
we have used Band-Aids, duct tape, and baling wire, trying to make it work in the meantime, and new parts are on the way. All right, 7 o'clock hour is coming up next. We'll sit down and visit with Grant Callen from Empower, Mississippi. Looking forward to that conversation. You can be part of the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Thanks for being with us. The news coming up next. We'll start it off with Fox News, then SuperTalk Mississippi News. More coming up with you on Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Back to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi and the SuperTalk app.
Country music singers have always been a real close family. But lately, some of my kinfolk have disowned a few others than me. I guess it's because I kind of changed my direction. Lord, I guess I went and broke their family tradition. They get on me, want to know, Hank, why do you?
Oh, yes, it is a Country Music Wednesday, and Lance doing his thing just like he always does. We're glad to be with you on Mornings with Richard Cross. This hour of the show is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. Thanks for joining us. We will jump into a conversation now with Grant Callen, who is the CEO and executive founder and CEO of Empower Mississippi. And Grant, just so you know, this is a conversation that is it certainly elicits passion when we talk about school choice, when we talk about education freedom, and it also elicits text like...
hey, I put a new fuse in the text line, so we're good.
Did you?
Yeah, we're good to go.
It's going to fire up. Where is it? This was a good one. Here, I've lost it. Basically said, here comes the super lobbyist to talk about half-truths. Why don't you get somebody to talk about the other side of the issue as well? I'm paraphrasing, but that was the gist of the message. We're talking about all of the sides and all of the issues and all of the questions related to school choice and to education freedom. We know, Grant, that this is going to be a big topic for the legislature in 2026. Speaker of the House, Jason White, has made that abundantly clear, as has the governor. We talked a lot about it with Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann a week or so ago. I appreciate you coming in. Good morning.
Well, good morning. I'm glad to be here. And it should elicit passions because we're talking about our kids, we're talking about our communities, we're talking about our state, talking about our schools. These are things that really matter. And so passion is good. It's certainly good in talk radio.
There's no question about that. At Empower Mississippi, this has been something that you've been looking at and studying and talking about really since the beginning. So
yeah,
just kind of to be clear as we start things off, your position on the idea of school choice in Mississippi, and I think we'll talk a little about surrounding states, but I'm more concerned about our state right now than what they're doing in Louisiana or Arkansas or Tennessee or other places.
Sure. My position is every child is unique, and there ought to be education options so that parents can match their kids to the best setting for their needs. I am agnostic about type, so I'm not pushing private schools. I'm not pushing charter schools or traditional public or magnet over a different type. I really think education providers and educators can thrive in lots of different settings. But the best opportunity for our kids in Mississippi to get a world-class education, in my view, is a setting where there are robust options. And that puts us in a position where education service providers, teachers, principals of all stripes are focused on meeting the needs of kids so that they keep them there. And I think that would produce the best outcomes. But I also approach this with a realization that there's a lot of kids that are already in a great setting. And maybe that's because they have chosen their neighborhood public school and they moved to that community because of their neighborhood public school and they're really proud of those schools. Maybe it's somebody who has already chosen a private school and they're really proud of those schools. So we approach this with a first do no harm. We don't want to do anything to disrupt where kids are already getting a great education. And we're really not focused on those kids where it's already working. The focus of this is all about kids who are falling through the cracks, whose parents know they need something else and they just don't have the options. I think there are things we can do to address that.
And Grant, that strikes me as a fairly non-controversial position or non-controversial take. I think regardless of where you fall in the school choice education freedom debate, most people would say we want the best outcomes possible for kids, and we want kids to have the opportunity to get the best education possible. But then the controversy comes in when you start talking about funding and how do you get to the finish line, and what schools should have to take what kids, and what kids in certain districts should have the opportunity to move from one to another. It is interesting to me when it seems like there's a it seems like there's a line of delineation between what the Speaker of the House and maybe the governor want and what the Senate appears to want. But one area that there does seem to be agreement is the idea that kids in failing or D-rated districts should have the opportunity to move to more exceptional districts if it's feasible, right? I mean, if they can get there, if the parents can get them there. Do you see that as an area that the two sides agree on?
Oh, I think, yes, there is agreement there, but I think that doesn't go nearly far enough. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, as the accountability model has been inflated since COVID, and some of that is the fact that our kids are genuinely doing better, and some of that is the model's inflated. Out of like 140 school districts, we only have 3 districts in the entire state rated D or F. That doesn't mean there's only 3 places in the state where our kids are not thriving. There are plenty of children across the state who are in a range of rated districts, some high performing, some low performing. That's sort of assuming that only kids in D or F rated districts need choice assumes that we're going to look at the state based on averages and say, hey, if most kids are doing well in A, B, or C rated districts, we don't need choice. And again, the purpose of choice is not about painting with a broad brush. It's about giving individual kids and individual families opportunity. So, yeah, I think that's probably the lowest common denominator, that I think everybody is in agreement that if you're stuck in a low-performing school, you should have choice. And look, I'm thrilled. That's actually progress. That's more alignment than we have seen in a long time. It just doesn't go far enough, and we ought to give options to a lot more than just kids in these 3 low-performing districts.
What about if you take it a step farther and you say, district to district movement is something that we are okay with? I've been having some conversations, and I think the number is about 75% of the districts in the state, and I may be off by a few percentage points one way or the other, have some level of movement that is allowed from district to district, whether that's because a parent teaches in one district but they live in another district, or it's just something that they allow on a case-by-case basis. If that became 100% across the board, the legislature said if you want to move your child from one district to another for whatever reason you deem necessary, and the receiving district has the capacity to take that child in, then it's okay. Is that maybe the first important step that we get to in your mind?
I think that would be an incredibly helpful first step. Because, again, what we're talking about is we have great schools. We don't have universal access to those great schools. And so that is, years and years ago. Mississippi has long had a open enrollment cross-district transfer policy that does technically allow families in, to your point, most districts, a process. The problem is that process is incredibly cumbersome, and it often requires that you be politically connected in the district you're trying to leave and the district you want to come to, and either one can veto it for cause or no cause. It truly can. It's entirely up to them. It's an ambiguous process, and it literally requires that you know people and can pull political strings. So the current process, while does technically allow cross-district transfer, it's just not nearly open enough, and it's kind of a political system.
There certainly is a financial piece to this, and we will get into that. And the big financial questions, one, and what we were just discussing, if you live in, I'm just going to use close to me because it's relevant to where I live. If you live in Panola County and you want to send your kids to the Lafayette School District or the Oxford School District, but you pay your local taxes in Panola County, what does that do for Lafayette or Oxford in terms of tax revenue? That's a question that people have. Also, does the money follow if you were allow a public to private transfer? That's one of the big things that people are talking about. We'll get to that coming up next with Grant Callen, founder and CEO of Empower.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
On your radio, on our app, or on your smart speaker. We're always free. SuperTalk Mississippi. Your home for Mornings with Richard Cross.
She said, "You're just a Coca-Cola cowboy. You got an Eastwood smile and Robert Redford hair."
Good to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Grant Callen is my guest, founder and CEO at Empower Mississippi. We get this message on the C Spire text line. Districts will have capacity, it's a word I used a little while ago, for good students and athletes. This weakening schools that are not great schools. I tend to think that that's a message that kind of fits the narrative that you're looking for as opposed to the reality. Grant, this is a question that I don't know has a clear answer. How much movement would we actually see? This is not the public to private conversation, but if public to public was open, where it could happen anywhere in the state of Mississippi, as long as the receiving school had the capacity, had the space to take new students in, how much movement would we see district to district?
I think it would be relatively small. But again, it would be the kids who are on the bubble, who are struggling or thinking about just where it was not the right fit. I think they would be the ones to move. It was interesting. I looked at some polling recently, and when asked nationally, why do families switch schools? That was the question. Why do families switch schools? it's not what we spend most of the time talking about, which is academics and NAEP scores and things like that. The number one thing that parents across the country said, it was excessive stress, anxiety, or bullying. So sometimes parents just want your kid to be in a situation where they're safe. They're not, and maybe they find themselves in a situation with their child is being bullied, or it's not the right fit for any number of reasons, and it's stressful, and a change of setting is necessary. And I think it would be relatively few, particularly because it has the receiving district has to have capacity to take those students. So what we're really talking about is currently both districts have to approve it. We're talking about saying now we would end the process where the sending district has to approve a child to leave, and simply the receiving district would have to decide if they have capacity to serve that student. So in the end, I think it would be relatively small, but it would be incredibly meaningful for those kids that exercise the choice.
We can talk about all of this in a utopian world where it's just like, oh yeah, we want what's best and we'll allow people to move freely, and it's all about getting what is best. But there is a financial component to this.
Sure.
There's a financial component for local communities. There's a financial component for the schools themselves. And there's a financial component for the state of Mississippi, and the way that it allocates money for education in Mississippi. So to me, there are two really big financial questions, and then probably some offshoot questions that go along with it. First, what I've mentioned before the break, if you are in neighboring counties and you pay local taxes to the county in which you live, but then you start sending your child to a school in a different county, a neighboring county, the local tax money that you're paying that goes to city and county schools would continue to go to the schools in the county in which you live. And there's a question about, well, what about the money for the neighboring county where you're sending your school? Is that a big enough issue? Is that a big enough concern? Are there enough students that is a reasonable concern? Or is that kind of a canary in the coal mine argument?
Well, I think it's something we should address, but when you think about the way it currently works, again, we've had a district transfer policy on the books for as long as I can remember. It currently works where the state funds students wherever they are, so that money follows the students. In the same way, if you moved your residence from one community to the next, the state is going to fund you at the district where you are currently enrolled. So that money's going to follow the child. The piece that doesn't follow is the local dollars. And districts have handled that differently, but in most cases, today they charge a tuition. And that might be $500, it might be $1,000. I think the most I've seen is they will charge $2,000.
$2,000. I think that's the highest number that exists right now in Mississippi.
So what we're suggesting, and what we've heard lots of people talking about, is there's nobody suggesting that the local dollars should follow a child to a different district. We simply think the state average cost of a student should follow that student to the next district, and then depending on what the legislation looks like, there's a couple of different ways to handle that. You could say, well, districts are still allowed to charge a tuition. The problem is that's going to price out some kids who even can't afford $1,000 or $2,000.
Sure.
So last year, the Speaker of the House, Jason White, their proposal coming out of the House, set up a state pot of funds that would be used to help offset that cost. So districts could say, hey, we're going to accept this student. We're going to accept this a little bit extra money out of the state pot in order to make up for the local dollars that are not following. So we spend a lot of time talking about...
And just to use real numbers on that, let's just say that the difference in what it costs to educate on a per-child basis, let's just say it's $3,000 or let's say $5,000 different between what the state allocates and what the local city or county makes up in terms of difference. And you charge $1,000 tuition. So you're talking about a $4,000 difference. If one school district were to accept 20 new kids, you're talking about $80,000, in which that district could then go to the state and say, hey, this is where we're falling short. We would like to apply for these funds that are available to make us whole.
No, what I'm saying is I think the way it was proposed last year is this pot of funds would replace the tuition model. So you would not charge a tuition. You would go to the state instead. So if you think about every school is funded with a combination of dollars of federal, state, and local dollars, the state portion is the largest piece. And it varies what the local contribution is. So the important thing is that the state portion follow. And there are a variety of proposals for how you make up for the local. But currently, if a child moves out of Madison County into Clinton School District, the state is going to fund that child at Clinton, not Madison anyway. Or if the child leaves the state, if they leave Madison County and they go to Alabama, the state is no longer going to fund that child in Madison like they would have before. So that piece is kind of already happening, and I don't understand why people are so concerned when we do that already in Mississippi as people move their residents. We're just trying to create a path so they don't have to move their residents.
I think the bigger financial concern, though, is the question of students that are currently in public schools moving to private schools, and the question about whether or not, if we say the money follows the student, does the money that the state is allocating for a student that currently is in a public school going to a private school follow that student to the private school? And when you talk about universal school choice, there are a lot of people that assume that money would follow. To me, though, that creates a really significant issue. What do you do with the kids that are already in private schools?
Sure.
That number is about, I think it's about 40,000.
Correct.
I think you've got about 25,000 students that are currently in MAIS private schools, and then about another 15,000 that are in some other sort of religious or parochial or whatever school that doesn't fall under MAIS. So if you're talking about 40,000 students at between $6,000 and $7,000 a year, you're talking about another $400 million that the state says they don't necessarily have to push into education without moving money from somewhere else.
Well, there's a couple of things I would say. This is an important point. First of all, the purpose of all of these conversations about school choice is not about helping kids that are already in private school. I think they need to be eligible, but I think they need to be at the back of the line after everybody else has been helped. So keep that in mind. The first goal is to help kids who are currently struggling somewhere who need another option. So, for instance, in Arkansas, they did I believe it was a 5-year phase-in. Kids that are already in private school were at the back of the line. So that might have been year 3 or year 4. And then they started with low-income students before everybody got it. So we're talking about focusing on kids elsewhere first. But then once you get to students that are already in private school, there's no state in the country that has had anywhere near 100% participation. So EdChoice, a national school choice organization, looked at Mississippi and did a study, I believe it was 2 years ago, came out in late 23, and they estimated, based on what's happened in other states, we would see about a 21% take-up rate in that first year. So 21% of 40,000 kids in private school is much less than what you're talking about, sort of funding everybody. So we look at if you were to fund 40,000 kids in private school, and even if you included the 23,000 homeschoolers, which I don't know whether this program will include homeschoolers or not, you're talking about 13,000 kids, maybe $90 million. So and again, that's getting at the back of the line after everybody else, but 90 million is nowhere near 500 million, which is the number I keep hearing tossed around.
Yeah. We will continue this conversation with Grant Callen on the other side of the break. He's founder and CEO of Empower Mississippi. We're back with you right after this. This segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Where you come first for news. Fast and free. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Well, you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow. Kick off your shoes and you throw them on the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night.
Lance, we may have created something that we have to further evaluate.
Yes, sir.
We got a message a little while ago said, the country music is making my mouth water. I'm icing down the cold beer right now.
Well, I had to play some Mel McDaniel. I'm country fried for you, so get some country fried steak today, too, with your beer.
Hey, go ahead and ice it down at 7:38 on a Wednesday morning.
That's how I roll, so I know I feel
Okay.
you. I feel you.
And Lance, I'm going to be having a Louisiana Saturday night in Baton Rouge with the LSU Tigers Saturday night. So that's good song choice.
Make sure
There
you
you
play
go.
that as you're pulling in, because it
Oh,
will
yeah.
be a fun time.
There you go. Grant Callen is with us. He's founder and CEO at Empower Mississippi. I think ultimately where we need to end up today as part of this conversation, because there can be these hypothetical conversations like, well, it could work like this and it might work like this. And we get down to a question of, okay, but what's the legislature going to do? And we'll get there in just a second. But I do want to ask you one other question. If we're talking about universal choice, I said two other questions that are tied to the financial piece on this. If we're talking about universal choice where public money, public tax dollars would follow students, the state portion would follow a student to a private school. Two things that strike me as really, really big issues here. Number one, is that immediately going to cause the private school to raise its tuition amount by the amount that the public money would equate to? So if, just using round numbers, if it cost $10,000 to go to private school X and all of a sudden there was an additional $6,000 available for a student transferring in, would that school take its tuition to $15,000 or $16,000?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, but I would say private schools exist to serve students, and many of them have many open seats and would love to serve more students. So as I talk to private school leaders, they're baffled by this question because we're sort of treating them like they exist for profit. The vast majority are nonprofit, and they don't exist to serve students. They want to serve kids, and many of them, particularly in rural areas, would love to serve more, and they have plenty of room. I've heard the number tossed around by private school leaders that there's something like 30,000 or 40,000 empty seats in private schools today that they could add just under current facilities. So there is tremendous room in our private schools that they could serve more kids, which is what they're in the business of doing and want to do. So,
But be that as it may, you don't think that they would raise tuition commensurate with the amount of money coming from the state?
I think the vast majority would not, but it's a marketplace. It's the question of, like, could grocery stores raise prices to price out people with food stamps? Sure. But they exist to sell groceries, and if you have a coupon, so maybe you would have a few that would raise their prices, and it's a marketplace. And if as soon as they got out of the price range of what is affordable for most families, somebody's going to see that as an opportunity and create a low-cost private school that is affordable. So you already see that kind of marketplace in the private school landscape as you have some of the big players are all extremely expensive private schools, but those are like 3 or 4 in the state. And you start to see even in the metro area, there's some great private schools that have come in and said, look, we're not going to be $15,000, $16,000 tuition. We want to be in at that $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 range because we want to be an affordable, high quality option. So it's a marketplace. And the last thing we want to do is sort of like rent control in New York, where you put a ceiling on what schools can do. Let the market work, and you're going to see providers adapt to meet the needs of students. And that's the purpose of choice.
And then the other part is, if public money goes to private schools, do private schools then become beholden to the same testing standards and teacher standards that public schools are beholden to?
Absolutely not. They are fundamentally different entities, and there's a long tradition of this in higher education, where we use Pell Grants to allow students to attend, in some cases, a private school. I mean, I went to Belhaven University for my undergrad and used a Pell Grant to help afford it. And that Pell Grant didn't allow the federal government to tell Belhaven they couldn't be a Christian university, or they couldn't hire Christian professors, or they had to take some kind of national test. There are certain accountability minimal standards that'll be there. And again, all of that comes down to the devils are in the details, and I don't know what this package will look like. Many states have said that in an education scholarship account program like this, an ESA program, you would require every private school to take a nationally norm reference test and submit those test scores to the state. That's what we support. Most private schools already offer a nationally norm reference test, so you're not adding an undue burden. It would simply allow them to take something they're already doing and submit those results to the state.
But most of those tests are different than the tests that are being administered by public schools, right?
Absolutely. And they have that's a feature, not a bug, that we have a diverse buffet of options across the state. Look, we've long supported a change to the way we hold public schools accountable. I'd love to see public schools allowed to offer different tests so that they could adapt and have different approaches in the way they teach, and they emphasize different things. There was a school district up in Corinth that took this approach a couple of years ago that had a university model curriculum, and they took, I guess it was a Cambridge model, and they took a different assessment. So I think that's a good thing. That allows the schools to adapt and meet the needs of their students. But here's the important thing. If you were to require a bunch of onerous requirements on private schools, if you were to say they have to take the state test, you would see the best private schools would just opt out, and the lowest performing private schools would say, well, we need the money, and so they would probably participate. That's what we saw a decade ago or 15 years ago in Louisiana. They had a school choice program that put a lot of onerous regulations on private schools that were ill-conceived, and you created this two-tiered system where you had good private schools did not participate and the less good ones did. And so I think we have to be vigilant that we recognize public schools are public, private schools are different. We're not talking about taking public dollars and appropriating them to private schools. We're talking about giving kids a publicly funded scholarship so they can shop around and find a setting that works. It's funding students, letting the money follow, and then giving private schools their independence so they can create great outcomes for kids.
I understand your perspective on that. I'm just not sure that I agree. You use the word onerous in terms of, testing and accountability, but if you start taking public tax dollars that are associated with a certain student and reallocating those to private schools, I feel like you've got to have a level of accountability that proves that students are being taught what the state says they're needing to be taught if they're receiving state money.
Look, accountability is an interesting word that gets tossed about in education forever.
Okay.
And I would say the system we have today is very unaccountable. Accountability, in my mind, conjures up the ability to affect change if the outcomes are not what we want. And in many parts of our state, you have kids that are in a school that has failed them. If we're just talking about schools, you have schools that have been failure factories for 50 years, and we still have students that are assigned to those schools that have to go. That is radically unaccountable. So the best accountability mechanism in education has always been walkaway power. If your needs are not getting met, if kids are not being prepared for life, you can go somewhere else where they will. So that's the first piece, is these programs are accountable to parents because parents they have the primary responsibility to make sure their kids get a great education and are prepared for life. But number two, again, we're not talking about allowing funds to go to anybody who opens a school in their garage and says it's a school. There would be some basic measures, and we support saying schools have to be accredited. And that's a rigorous process. There are a number of different either in-state or national accreditation organizations that are a rigorous process. And we think
to use your example from Belhaven earlier, Belhaven is accredited to be able to be a college or university.
Correct. And there's there is oversight through that accreditation process. But again, the market is the best form. Belhaven goes out of business if they don't produce great graduates that are prepared for life, that are ready to go. That's the accountability mechanism that's most effective.
Grant, I very, very rarely keep a guest for an entire hour. If you've got time, I want to hold you over because I think there's one incredibly important piece to look at here before we finish up. If you've seen the musical Hamilton, Lance will laugh at me for making this reference. There is a line in one of the songs there where George Washington is saying to Alexander Hamilton, "You don't have the votes, you don't have the votes." Are the votes there? Because absent the votes, are we wasting time with this conversation?
It's a great question.
We will get to that on the other side of this break. Grant Callen from Empower, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Tractor.
Where you come first for news. Fast and free. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Listen, give me 5 minutes. We're going to put some moves on that mother. I'll meet you at Ole Miss. Well, you better hurry. We can just kiss that money goodbye. You understand that? I'll read you loud and clear. 10-4. You got the one snowman. I'm eastbound and down. Eastbound and down. Load it up and truck it. Are we going to do what they say can't do?
As predicted, maybe 100 of your messages on the C Spire text line. You can be part of this conversation, 601-879-4395. I promise you, I am reading all of them. Obviously, we don't have time to get to all of them, but it's pretty divided, Grant, as has been the case with this conversation about school choice, about educational freedom in the state of Mississippi. You have people that are adamantly for it, and all of the details be damned. You've got people that are adamantly against it, and they don't want to hear anything otherwise. So let's spin this forward to January 2026. We know that this is a conversation, and we know it because the leaders in the legislature have told us that this is going to be a conversation this year. It's kind of reached almost a tipping point. Jason White has told us he's for universal school choice. He believes in parents with having the choice or having the option to give their kids what they need regardless of where they go to school. The lieutenant governor has taken a much more measured approach with this, and I think he would say a fiscally sound approach, but also recognizing that students in failing districts need better opportunities. So I know you've talked with a bunch of legislators, as have I. I do not get the impression that on the Senate side that there is any sort of appetite for a universal choice model. And when I say appetite, I don't think the votes are there. I actually have a question about the House side because this is a very aggressive agenda item for the Speaker of the House, Jason White, and it seems to have the backing of Governor Tate Reeves as well. But one of the issues that I see arising, and this is what I'd love to hear from you on, is that you've got senators that say, I can't go back to my high-performing school districts and say that I voted for school choice, not if I want to stay in Jackson. Well, you have representatives from those same districts who are going to have the same issue. Why is it that we, I feel like, just assume that the House is going to be able to get this bill passed? Whatever this bill turns out to be.
Well, the details matter. And one of the things that makes this such a complicated issue to talk about is it's public to public is a different issue than private choice. We haven't even talked about charter schools. The issue has a lot of different facets, and every different facet of this issue has its champions and its opponents. So the devil will be in the details, and the Speaker has said there's going to be one big education package, and I'm confident that he's going to be able to craft a package that his membership can pass. Look, we've had really productive conversations with senators to find where is the common ground, where is something that they can pass. Today, I don't know what the legislation is going to look like. That's a better question for Speaker White. But I can tell you, in all the years that I've been doing this, I have not felt the kind of momentum that I am feeling right now as I hear from legislators who tell me, these are legislators who have had concerns, who have been on the fence. They feel like there's momentum like they've never seen before. And you talk about somebody coming back and having to reconcile with a superintendent or somebody in their good district. It's not just superintendents you're going to have to reconcile with. You're going to have to deal with parents who know that this issue has reached a fever pitch, know that our surrounding states have something they don't. I looked at the numbers the other day. 37% of Mississippi citizens live in a county that borders another state. You don't think now that all of these other states have done this, that they're not going to start having friends and relatives and family members right across the line that have this array of options that we don't have. I think that's going to influence.
And on another day, I'd love for you and I to get into a conversation about how this is actually working in surrounding states. Is it working as well in Louisiana and Arkansas and Tennessee as sometimes we are led to believe? I want to leave the conversation here, if we may. Visited with the governor 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I asked him about this. He is obviously supportive of school choice. It certainly is a President Trump agenda item and something that he seems to have fallen in line with. But I asked him, I said, if you get a bill that is short of universal choice but does provide progress, is that something that you would sign? And his response, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't have the exact quote, was, I never want to stand in the way of good legislation.
Yep.
Oh, Grant, I think Richard may have froze up on us, and so I'm going to exit you out here. I think we're going to be parachuting out in about 30 seconds. Any final thoughts?
Well, this is why we have the fight. This is why we have the debate, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to be in the legislation. But I'm excited to watch it. Let's engage parents. Let's engage families. Be involved in the process, and we're going to get something great.
Well, Grant, thank you. You're always so informative. Grant Callen, founder and CEO, Empower Mississippi. Have a wonderful weekend, my brother, and be safe heading down to the Red Stick.
Thank you.
Say careless how I feel. But how many of you that's sitting just me ever walk the streets of Bakersfield?
From the heart of Mississippi to the halls of Washington, D.C., this is Mornings with Richard Cross, your source for hard-hitting political insight and unfiltered truth. Now, here's more on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome again. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. I can tell you unequivocally there is no more helpless feeling than hosting a radio show where everything is reliant on power and internet, and you get a little surge or a little blink and everything goes dark and nobody can hear you, especially mid-question. My thanks to Grant Callen from Empower Mississippi. I think a very good, very measured, very reasonable conversation. And we talked about a lot of issues. You had a lot of reaction to that conversation, and I promise we will get to your messages in the last half hour of the show this morning. But we continue with guests. I remind you, C Spire text line is the best way for you to join us. 601-879-4395. That is the number for the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Visit them online at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. A pair of guests now after the conversation with Grant. Scott Waller, President and CEO of the Mississippi Economic Council, and Gene Massey, who is Executive Director of Ascent to 55%. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Richard.
Morning.
I appreciate it. Everybody excited? Y'all okay? We can get you some coffee or get you a little more fired up if we need to.
Oh.
Well, let's just jump right in. We know about the MEC. We've been doing those events, and Scott, we've had so many conversations about workforce development and MEC being the cheerleader and consolidation among multiple agencies kind of under the MEC umbrella. There's so much going on. But specifically, Ascent to 55%. This is we've got the Mississippi Propel Education Forum on the way, and I feel like it's a pretty reasonable time to have this conversation on the heels of the visit that we just had with Grant Callen.
Well, I tell you what, Richard, and yes, I am really happy to be here. I'm sorry I seemed to if I didn't seem,
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Excited earlier. I mean, I know you always do, and I appreciate that. No, we do have a lot of great things going on as it relates to the education workforce space here in Mississippi in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. And I think the bottom line is the total focus has to be on student outcome. Are we preparing students to be able to go into the workforce? Are we putting training programs in place that actually leads to employment? That has to be the primary issue that we're doing. And about 4 years ago, we had the opportunity, we received a grant to start the Ascent to 55 program underneath the PEF umbrella at MEC. And honestly, the progress we're making has been tremendous, and is all Gene is handling that and heading that up, and we're really seeing major steps being taken. And what we're going to be doing next month is really celebrating where we are, and doing that for a minute. But it's like with anything, you're a sports guy. I'm an old sports guy. That win is great when it happens, but then there's the game next week too. So what we know is we're making some strides, but we still have a long way to go. It's a long season for us as well. And so we want to talk about kind of what's ahead. So in October, we'll be doing a convening that will really take a look at a lot of that stuff. And I'm going to kind of let Gene kind of go through some of the aspects of that as it relates to what we want to look back on, and then what we want to think about going ahead.
Gene, I appreciate you being with us this morning as well. I'm not sure. Lance tells me I'm supposed to call you Principal Massey. We might go with Gene this morning for a little while. This convention coming up the 15th and 16th at the Jackson Convention Complex, and op-ed that you wrote a unique opportunity to unite education, business, and community leaders in a collective effort to strengthen our state's workforce readiness. Talk to us about what that means, and at this event coming up in October, where your focus lies.
Our focus really lies in bringing those entities together. We often have convenings for business, for education, for nonprofits, but this is try to bring everybody together, because we're not going to get to 55% of our population with certifications past high school if we're not all pulling in the same direction. So this convening came out of work that our state's been doing with the Lumina Foundation. Woodward Hines Education Foundation is actually putting this on. That's who has our grant for Ascent to 55%. We've had the privilege about the past 3 years being able to attend their national conventions, and we were sitting at one of their convenings, and Jim McHale, who is the CEO for Woodward Hines, looked at all of us at the table. There were about 5 of us representing Ascent, representing IHL, community colleges, Accelerate, nonprofit, and he said, we hear this. How do we get everyone in Mississippi to be able to also hear what's going on? So this convening is to kind of duplicate what we were able to hear, to bring all these entities together.
You know, it's so interesting how the conversation about education in Mississippi ties to business development. It ties to economic development. It so inextricably ties to all of these new projects that are coming online, and how you've got so many departments that seem to be working together and pulling in the same direction. You talked about Empower or Accelerate just a second ago. We've had so many visits with Dr. Courtney Taylor. We know that the governor is continuing to push and continuing to make resources available. Is there something that's a little rewarding about working on projects where everybody seems to want the same outcome? The only debate is about how do we get there?
Most definitely. We're a small state. We don't have a lot of resources. And when we separate those resources out, we don't get as far. But when we all come together, you can begin to see things happen. For example, in 2020, when this attainment rate was set by the Education Achievement Council, we were at 44%. We at MEC and Ascent to 55% didn't make the change to move us forward, but being able to help bring people together and talk about it, we're almost at 50% now. So being able to move forward and see those results because of what everybody's doing is very important.
Scott, how do you tie together the progress that Mississippi has made as a state with education outcomes at lower levels to this conversation about filling jobs with graduates who need skills training and who need, in some cases, post-secondary, whether it's certificates or degrees or whatever? How do you tie those two issues together?
It's interesting. Several years ago, we had a superintendent of education who said that it didn't matter what the question was, the answer was good education. And I think that's really true. And it begins with early childhood education. I mean, you got to put that base in place, then you got to make sure there's a strong system for really looking at how do we, at the K-12 level, really focus. Again, we got to think about focusing on outcomes. That's one of the things I think we have to really seriously have a serious conversation about. Are we doing that the way we're sectioned right now? I think there's some things we could definitely do better on that front, particularly as it comes to how we have accountability for schools. But at the end of the day, it really is a lifelong process of making sure that you're being prepared for the workforce, because the workplace changes all the time. And you've got to make sure that we're putting programs in place for people to continue to be upskilled and be ready to go to work. So whether you're looking at just a post-secondary certification or some type of certificate that shows that you're prepared to go to work, whether you're looking at an associate's degree, a 4-year degree, all of those are so important in the process of building the type of workforce in Mississippi for us to be successful. And quite frankly, that's what I said earlier when I said the education has to be connected to employment. We've got to make sure that those programs are focusing on what matters. And I will say this, that's the one thing I am extremely excited about with the work that's happening with Accelerate, is that through the efforts of the SWIB board and Accelerate, we're trying to look at programs that are putting people into the workplace, and not just into the workplace for a job that's just going to get them a paycheck at the end of the week, but into a career that's going to allow them to grow and be successful and be skilled and help our state's economy grow.
Gene, while I was asking that question of Scott a second ago, I saw you nodding your head as I was asking the question, like, yes, this is it. We've got to tie it all together.
But when you think about it, we hear a lot about the Mississippi Miracle. I can tell you it was no miracle. It's been a marathon.
And hard work.
And hard work in the elementary. Now let's move it on to the high school.
May I tell you that I know for a fact that there are some senators and some representatives that are listening right now who are tired of hearing that phrase, Mississippi Miracle, and said amen to what you just said. It's not something that just magically happened overnight. There was a lot of work that went into it. We'll continue this conversation coming up. Gene Massey, Executive Director at Ascent to 55%. Scott Waller, President and CEO of the Mississippi Economic Council. You've got it locked in. It's MRC, Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
I sat bouncer where I was and said, son, you're a bill. Honky-tonk picking, line dance kicking, razorback sticking, barbecue chicken, laundromat bar and grill.
From the Venable Glass.
From the heart of Mississippi to the halls of Washington, D.C., this is Mornings with Richard Cross, your source for hard-hitting political insight and unfiltered truth. Now, here's more on SuperTalk Mississippi.
For a while, maybe longer if I do.
Gene Massey, Executive Director at Ascent to 55% under the MEC umbrella. Scott Waller, President, CEO of the Mississippi Economic Council. They are my guests. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, 8 o'clock hour. Glad to be with you on this 10th day of September, middle of the week, Wednesday morning. Gene, it is every time you and I visit, I get messages from people who had you as a principal somewhere along the way and said, she's the best. For a principal to have that kind of Q rating after their career in that particular profession is over, I think that speaks to the job that you did. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. It was I appreciate that. That was a number of years in that business, but you can't be a good principal without good students and good parents.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a great
those.
example. I'm a great example, aren't I?
And then there are the outliers also, Lance.
Lance's family was a great one. He has a sister that, kind of ranks up there pretty high, too.
Yeah, she takes the cake, definitely.
That's outstanding. All right, so we're talking about this event that is coming up for the Ascent to 55%, going to happen at the Jackson Convention Complex in mid-October. Gene, tell us how people can get involved, can get registered, and maybe reiterate one more time kind of what they're going to hear on that particular day.
It's October 15th and 16th. You can go to the Ascent to 55% website. Registration information is there. We have an agenda that's almost completed. The good thing about this, pre-conference, the morning of the 15th, we'll have the Mississippi Higher Education and Prison Conference to lead into this one. Work we're doing there with getting prison training in prison so that when people come out, those incarcerated individuals have actually skills that they can find a job with. Then in the afternoon, starting about 11 o'clock, our convening will begin. We have several national individuals coming in. We have the IHL, the higher eds from Louisiana and from Kentucky that will be here. Courtney Brown with the Lumina Foundation. We have individuals to talk about what's happening at the national level for in education and workforce around policies and grants and what's happening along with Pell and short-term Pell. We will have breakout sessions with a number of Mississippians looking at AI, looking at our top priority sectors and how education and business work together with partnerships. And we will end up the last day with actually Scott in a group with Stephen Moray from Strata talking about all the things of how we tie workforce and business and industry together and what's coming down. So we have a really wide array of people coming in, national and local, to be able to help see how we can move our workforce forward. And we talk about workforce and being prepared. We're not just talking about straight out of high school. Being prepared to enter community colleges and IHLs to do the work there because they're eventually going to enter the workforce.
Yeah. Sometimes we outthink the room with names of businesses, names of companies, names of programs. Like if there was a company named Waller and Company, I'd have no idea what it is they do. But I know what they do at Ollie's Donuts. Ascent to 55%. It just kind of spells it right out in the name of the program. But more specifically, just so people are abundantly clear, this is a goal of having 55% of high school graduates ready for the workforce? Is that or workforce eligible people ready for the workforce? Is that saying it right?
It's having our adults post high school, after you graduate from high school, whether it's straight out of high school, whether you're 40 years old and want to go back, but it's getting those individuals with certifications, whether it is a certification in welding or whether it's a nursing certificate, that then could lead to an associate degree or bachelor's degree. It's all of those things. It's how do we get 55% of our adults in this state with higher certifications above a high school diploma by 2030.
You said you had quickly gotten to 50%. If you hit 55, do we change the name? And do we? No, I mean, serious though. Like, do we adjust the goals? Do we say, okay, we hit that goal, but you know what? It's time for us to recalibrate because this was better than we thought it could be, and so now let's shoot for 60 or 65.
Well, actually, Richard, it's 55% by 2030, and then it goes to 60% by 2035. So yes, we will continue to try to push that number forward.
I don't think Jean's going to need that much time, Scott.
Well, she probably is not. I mean, we know that, and that's one of the reasons that we're convinced that this is going to work. Is that she will get it done in a short period of time. But no, I think the idea is to continue to grow that number, because we know for a fact that most jobs in the state now, about 60% of the jobs in the state, require some type of post-secondary education. And the idea is not just have a post-secondary education, but complete that post-secondary education. But more importantly, we want to look at it from an aspect of what are you taking. She mentioned Stephen Moray at Strata. Strata Education Foundation just released a report last year looking at underemployment. In Mississippi, 48% of college graduates in year one after college are underemployed, meaning they're in a job that doesn't pay what should be the equivalent of what a college degree should pay. And that's because we're in field that we got to make sure we're getting people to college in those fields at the college level that are going to lead to that higher paying job, so they're not underemployed. And I think that's one of the whole idea behind this is not just to, again, we want as many certifications and all as we can get, but we really want to focus our attention on making sure that certification has meaning and has value. And that's what we have said as it relates particularly to the certifications and certificate side of it. They're classified as, it counts as long as it's a certification or certificate of value. In other words, it will lead to a job. And I think that's where we're really trying to focus our attention. And I think that has to be the case through associates in colleges. And the thing about it is, in Mississippi, we've identified there are several, and I think sometimes this gets lost in translation as it relates to workforce development. There are several professional areas, accounting, engineering, others, that require that 4 years. So, I mean, those are just as important. We're not just trying to throw everybody into a certification program. We're trying to put people into a pathway that matches their skills, matches their interest, and gets them prepared for the workforce of the future here in Mississippi.
A certificate in welding is more hireable and more valuable than a degree in underwater basket weaving.
Exactly, but there are many 4-year degrees that are very, very valuable, and that's where we want to focus our attention.
Yeah, Gene. Last thing for you, and this may be a hey, Captain Obvious. Why did you even ask the question? But when you talk about the quick growth in this program and getting to 50%, what has the level of receptiveness been from high school graduates, from people who perhaps have already finished community college, or even a 4-year degree, in terms of taking advantage of some of these programs, getting the certificates, getting into this job force so that maybe they're not underemployed or unemployed?
We're seeing a lot of progress, especially coming out of high school. The career coaches are helping there. Our counselors are helping. Our parents are beginning to understand that there's more than one way for their child to be successful. We heard for so long you have to have a 4-year degree. A 4-year degree is very important, but it needs to be the right 4-year degree that aligns with the kid's interest. Yeah. So being able to really help guide people into these fields, to begin to value each of these areas, whether it's a welding degree, a 4-year degree, or a doctorate degree. How do we value those? Because all of them are important. And if I get that welding degree you talked about, and I decide I want that associate degree to do better in the field, how do we make them stackable and ready for that person to go back and get that next level? And if I have that associate degree, to go back and get that bachelor's degree. Let's make sure we have a clear pathway for everyone. And then we can stop some of the things that are happening. We have about 300,000 adults that have some college credit but no certification or degree. How do we bring them back in?
I had a boss one time who told a story about his daughter. He said she wanted to get a degree in ballet or interpretive dance or something along those lines, and he was like, okay, we'll do that, but we're also going to get an engineering degree, and we're going to let those things coexist. Really appreciate the time from both of you. Scott, we got Hobnob coming up before long. Give us the details. What do we need to know?
Well, it's going to be October 30th. It's going to be a fun event. We're going to actually be able to give some details on some of the stuff that we've been talking about over the last couple of years as it relates to this effort to bring our organizations together across the state with us, the Mississippi Manufacturers Association, BIPEC. It's getting closer and closer by the day, so we're excited about that. And more importantly, we're excited that SuperTalk will be there to help us kick the morning off, because that is really one of the great traditions of Hobnob, as well as the fact that it's just a fun event. You know, it's interesting. I told people a lot of times Hobnob's like two events. There's the speaking going on the stage, and then in the back of the room, everybody's truly hobnobbing and just catching up with everybody, and that's what makes that event so special. So we're looking forward to it.
You don't have to wear your Halloween costume. We will give you registration information when we get a little closer
and if somebody's interested, mec.ms, it's right there for them. So,
Gene Massey and Scott Waller, thanks to both of you for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Richard. Mornings with Richard Cross, half an hour left. We're back on the other side of this timeout. Thank you for being with us as well.
It's time to get real.
Keeping it real.
It's time for you to get real with it.
And keeping it Mississippi. Your voice for statewide and national politics.
Yes!
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
You're sorry once again. You want me to take you back once more. You say you need a helping hand, but that's what you told me once before.
Good to be with you. It's Wednesday morning. It is a gorgeous day in the Magnolia State, and I want to say thank you to all of my guests this morning. First, Grant Callen from Empower Mississippi. A good conversation with him about school choice, education freedom, and many of the questions that go along with that. And Scott Waller and Gene Massey from MEC and Ascent to 55%. A lot of interesting stuff there. But I also want to say thank you to you for your engagement this morning. My anticipation was that there would be a lot of comments from you related to the conversation about school choice, and on that front, I was not disappointed. Was not wrong. Was not inaccurate. And so, to show you, there's some other things that we probably need to get to this morning. But I think that's unfair to try and shove down a story about the Supreme Court or anything else when we ask for your input and you connecting, and then we ignore that. So I don't want to do that. I will tell you, I'm not going to get to all of these messages, but I'm going to try to hit the high points and get to as many messages as we can as we kind of look back on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395 if you want to join the conversation. We'll start with one that was kind of a thumbs up and one that was maybe more of a thumbs down. Thanks for asking the hard questions. I've always been a proponent of keeping what is good about public education and fixing those districts that continue to fail to perform. There are ways to help those districts, but the legislature has to have the political will to do it. By the way, I work with private schools on issues that plague them. Some do a great job. None want state interference in what they do, and they will raise tuition if they get state funding because they have money issues like every educational institution. And they will continue to be very selective in who they admit. Being a good quarterback will go a long way toward acceptance. And we actually didn't get into that with Grant. There are just so many different layers. But if you want to pretend for a second like athletics doesn't play a role in this conversation, you are burying your head in the sand. There are, and I'm not picking on the metro area, but there are a lot of examples, and there are a lot of very public examples, some that are being talked about within the communities, maybe even as we speak, about exceptional athletes who live in surrounding school districts or counties who are finding themselves in private schools within the Jackson city limits or the Flowood city limits, etc. It's just going on. People want to win, and sports matter. which is one of the reasons that I chuckle sometimes when we get the, hey, stick to news, this isn't a sports show. Oh, no, I completely agree with you on that, and I think we do stick to news, generally speaking. But pretending like news, politics, sports, and issues don't intertwine on a daily basis, that's kind of burying your head in the sand. Andy says, I have noticed in your conversations regarding school choice that you seem to be more interested in poking holes and questioning its benefits than you are in exploring the upside and the many, many children and parents it will help. Next time, why not spend some time on what can be the positives of universal school choice instead of questioning everything, or at the very least, question the current status quo? Andy, I think that's fair. I do. But my job is not, in my view, my job is not to prop up one side or the other, to blindly support one side or the other. I think my job is to ask questions. And so if you are, the reason that the very first thing I asked Grant Callen was, what is your position? Like, I know what your position is, but for the record, I want you to say, I am for school choice, and this is why. So that we can then have a conversation with the understanding of where Grant, in particular, is coming from. And I try to do that with all of the guests. I am not. This is, I will go full disclosure here just for a second. And it's funny, this actually ties to what I did previously in the afternoons. Michael Borky and I have had conversations about this. And I'm not trying to put any words into Michael's mouth, but he believes that the role of a sports talk radio host is to have strong sports opinions. And I agree with that. I just don't agree with it all the time, because I don't always have a strong sports opinion. I find myself in that same position with the school choice conversation. I don't know that I have, Andy, a strong opinion one way or the other. I think there are benefits to school choice. I think there are some benefits to universal school choice. I think there are benefits to limited school choice. But I also think that there are benefits to the way our public schools are operating now. You call it status quo. I have trouble calling it status quo with the strides that we've made in public education in Mississippi. Or if it is status quo, I'm not sure in this context status quo is a terrible thing. And so that kind of informs the way that I'm approaching this issue as we discuss it, because lots of you that are listening are ingrained one way or the other. You are either for school choice and you'll hear nothing to the contrary, or you are anti-school choice and you will hear nothing to the contrary. That's not how I view this issue. I view this issue as one of the more important conversations that we've had in Mississippi in a long time. And I think the viewpoints from both sides are really, really important. That's why I gave Grant an hour this morning, and maybe said conversely, Grant gave me an hour of his time to have this conversation. But Grant and I have communicated offline about something that we agree on, which is the importance of this conversation in a very public forum and exploring all of the sides of the issues. Let's see here. Let me try to get back into some of the messages. Here we go. Here's one that came in at 7:54. Public schools were established for the common good, and all children can attend public schools. As far as school choice, I believe it is proper for public tax dollars to follow a student from one public school to another. If parents choose to send their children to private school, that is their choice and their expense, and not the responsibility of the taxpayer. I generally agree with that. Generally. The only pushback that I would give you there and this is going to sound like I'm arguing for public to private, which I'm not. I'm just saying the only pushback that I would give you there is excellent schools lead to excellent communities. Or excellent communities support excellent schools. It's the chicken and the egg argument that we talked about last week. But regardless, in excellent communities, you generally find excellent schools. And part of having excellent schools is having choice available, having options available for parents. And parents who have children going to private schools are still paying taxes, city and county taxes, that help support public schools within their communities.
Well,
and so some claim to, well, I am investing in this system locally that helps support schools. I feel like that money should go along with my student wherever it is that they attend school. I understand that argument, but I would also say, yeah, but there are a lot of people who are retired or who don't have children who are also paying into that for the greater good. Now, it's not necessarily what they want to do sometimes, but they have no choice because those taxes at the local level, much of which goes to schools, are required.
You saw where Florida and Ron DeSantis is trying to make a move to get rid of property taxes. There was a story.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just, you look at all the different mechanisms out there. I mean, they still got to fund schools, right? I mean, so
yeah.
I think looking at this from a big picture and then drilling down details, it makes a lot of sense. But again, we're not going to be able to get rid of property taxes. We don't have the industry. We don't have the tourism. But you got to find ways to keep people whole while at the same time funding your schools and expecting a great result there.
Scotty Clinton says anything school choice will die in the Senate Education Committee. Scott, I actually disagree with that. I think the Senate's going to bring out a bill. Now, whether it is a school choice bill or it is more of a comprehensive education reform in Mississippi bill, we'll have to wait and see. I think you're going to see teacher salaries addressed there. I think you're going to see public to public addressed in that, and maybe some more. But I actually think the Senate's going to bring a bill out this year. What's it going to be? What's it going to look like? We'll have to wait and see.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
From breaking news to bold opinions, Richard dives into the stories shaping Mississippi and the nation. Now back to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good to be with you. Hey, I can't. Yeah, that's old. Never mind. Oh, this was a new video. The Mamdani.
Mad Manny?
Jeez. You know what? It is old, but I'm gonna play it anyway. It's 30 seconds.
You talking about free stuff again?
No, actually he's not. It's worse than that. And probably the fact that it resurfaces today as the full video is released of the young woman who was stabbed to death on the light rail train in Charlotte. And we know that despicable scum on the bottom of your shoe human should have been in jail.
What, 14 times? Yeah.
This is a reminder. I don't know that there's a Democrat in Mississippi outside of Benny Thompson that would vote for this guy. I really don't. I would like to think that the people who live in this state and identify as Democrats, who are Democrats, who call themselves Democrats, even they would say, nope, that's too much. Here it is. Zohran Mamdani on abolishing prisons and jail.
Thank you. Are prisons obsolete?
Whew! Coming through with the quotes, through with the titles of the books. I have to read that, actually. I haven't read that as yet. But I think that, frankly, what purpose do they serve?
Right.
Are prisons obsolete? His answer is, what purpose do they serve? Well, the most recent example is that it would save a life. It would save lives. Would save lives. If you were putting criminals, violent criminals, in jail and keeping them there, it would save lives. But you don't really care about that. No. You'd rather, what purpose do they serve besides making you feel good about putting a bad guy in a bad spot? And look, I have had multiple people send me questions via text, via email, via the C Spire text line that says, what if you reverse the races on that light rail train in Charlotte? How would we be discussing this issue? How would the legacy media, the mainstream media, social media be discussing the case if you reverse the races? You know the answer to that. We've seen it before. You've seen it. We've seen it. We've all seen it. So, all right, let me go back and try and grab a couple of more messages. Would Muslim schools be something these funds could create if accredited? I appreciate the message, and I understand that you sometimes get into slippery slope arguments. I'm just not convinced that taking the most extreme example you can come up with and throwing it into the debate or throwing it into the conversation is the most productive way to go about things. Oh, but Richard, you're not taking that seriously. Yeah. If there is no oversight, how are their measures? So, in our conversation with Grant, he said absolutely not when I asked him if private schools should be subject to the same testing requirements that public schools are. And he said no. He said they're different. They have different missions. They have different educational styles. They should not be subjected to the exact same tests. But he did say there should be accreditation and oversight. I don't think he and I agree on that. I mean, I am willing to listen to a longer conversation or a deeper argument about that. But I think if you are taking taxpayer money, and even if it's in the name of for each student, and you are allocating taxpayer dollars, there is a fiduciary responsibility that the legislature has to make sure that there is a level of accountability in place. Even if the process is a little bit different, because I'm not just like across the board on in favor of the way that we measure school performance right now. I do think that there is a lot of teaching to a test that happens that sometimes gets in the way of educating the full student. But I also recognize that you got to have a way to measure it. And there are some generally accepted practices for measuring school performance, and it's the way that you're measured against other states, and those are the areas that we've seen Mississippi make significant strides. Appreciate all the conversation this morning. I enjoyed it. I hope you did as well. Thanks, Lance. We'll do this again tomorrow morning. Talk to you at 6.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.